Hey guys, and we're back, and this is Stellar Gnosis, tuning in with your favorite peoples, and I'm your host with my other two hosts. I'm Trinity.
Star Fox.
I'm 7.
And today we're going to be talking about the secrets of Antarctica and the Arctic. Yeah, you guys excited for this?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So you may think that Antarctica and the Arctic are just a place for penguins and polar bears, but there are so many more speculations as to what is potentially going on there. Many believe that during World War II, Nazis went to Antarctica to test their advanced technologies. There are reports of ruins where military officials are protecting a mysterious UFO sighting. Or are they protecting the entrances to Agartha, Hollow Earth?
Ooh, I was just going to say, what is Agartha?
Okay, well, I'm going to explain that today in our podcast. So the military officials are protecting a mysterious UFO site, but it's very interesting because Admiral Byrd tells us there are life beyond the poles. So the military is heavily guarding these poles, which is very, very interesting. In fact, all world leaders had signed a friendly treaty for any scientific research that was found coming out of these regions. So the average person can't just fly to the Arctic or Antarctica.
Ooh, so who's Admiral Byrd? Is he like from the United States
So
Army?
Admiral Byrd was a United States Navy pilot.
Wait, he wasn't a real bird? Oh man, I gotta go over my notes.
So yeah, it makes you think, right? Like, what are they hiding from the public there? You know, aliens, Hollow Earth,
Drugs.
right?
But yeah, we're all prohibited from flying over. No one else could go.
Yeah, no one.
That's insane.
No one's allowed to.
What, do you just get shot on arrival or something? Like, how does that work?
Not that you'd get shot, but they don't allow anyone to fly into their airspace. So it's
What if you're on foot?
Yeah, you're not allowed. No one's
Wow.
allowed there. So I'm going to tell you guys the story of Admiral Byrd. And Admiral Richard E. Byrd was a 20th century adventurer and explorer. He was also a United States Navy officer. In 1929, he became the first pilot to fly from the North Pole and back. He was an adventurous person, and in those times, airplanes were such a new technology, so any man or women who decided to use these new technologies were taking risks. Byrd had ventured to the North Pole. By 1947, he had coined his term for Hollow Earth. He had allegedly flown his craft over ice walls and into a very green land. To him, it seemed as if he flew his airplane into a new world. He said that the air was very different and the planetary life seemed much more advanced than he had ever seen. His airplane started to malfunction, as if he had no control over it. And he heard a voice come over his intercom, and it spoke in a Nordic accent. It said, quote, "Welcome, Admiral, to our domain. We shall land you within 7 minutes. You're in good hands." While his engines of his planes weren't working and the controls were rendered useless, the plane was guided gently to the ground. Once it touched ground, he stumbled across a world that was very different than what we call Earth. When he got out of his aircraft, he met with several representatives. These beings were not human, but also were very humble. One being had told him that he was in Ariana and not Earth, also known as Ariane and Agartha.
And this is inside the Earth.
Yes, so he is now over the ice walls.
A world within a world.
Yes,
Ooh.
a world within a world.
Like in the Baron Trump's Magical Adventure. That's what they find, is a world within a world.
Exactly.
Time travel.
Right? Who knows?
Love how you fit that one in. Agartha is a Buddhist word, okay? And the Tibetan people also call inner earth Shambhala.
Oh, Shambhala.
yes.
Shambhala.
Shambhala.
Yeah, and there's a
Shambhala.
festival named after that as well. So they're supposed to be the same place, the one Trinity's discussing right now,
Yes.
and Shambhala, they're supposed to be the same.
Yes, so the
Yes.
Tibetan people
Yes.
speak about this as well
I've
throughout
heard
history.
about that, yeah.
And even the Hindus, they talk about inner earth. And they say that there's a group of people called the Nagas that inhabit inner earth.
Oh.
Whenever somebody talks about inner earth, there's always two beings that they describe. Either they're giants or they're half reptilian, half human.
Oh.
So that's consistent throughout history.
Yeah, well, we
Wow.
know the reptilians be existing, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
I actually used to, when I first found out about Shambhala when I was 19 and spiritually awakening, I remember going off about it and being like, I'm leaving my life and I'm going to find Shambhala, because apparently only
How did that
it
work
only
out?
presents to the enlightened ones, right?
Yeah.
You have to be like enlightened to be able to find Shambhala. So I literally was planning to make that my life goal and mission, is to
How's it
find
coming?
Shambhala. I smoked too much weed and forgot about it.
That couch is looking real nice.
Anyways, yes. My couch is my Shambhala.
Guys, let me finish the
Okay,
story,
please,
okay?
please, we
Please,
sidetrack.
please, carry on.
So these beings, they weren't human, but they seemed very humble. And one being had told him that he is now in Agartha. So the beings had taken Bird to their city, which glowed in a rainbow hue, also made of some sort of crystalline material. The beings looked Nordic, very tall and blonde, apparently. That's what his diary says. They had given him a hot beverage similar to a tea, but much more delicious than anything he had ever tried before here on planet Earth.
Ooh.
I know, right? Like, I want this tea.
Delicious. Yeah.
So the hosts asked Bird to come with them for a meeting, and as he followed them down an elevator which glowed a rose-colored hue, when he got out, he noticed all of the walls of the building he was surrounded in were emanating this color of rose. He could not describe how beautiful his surroundings were. He was witnessing such beauty that his eyes had never seen before. Such delicate designs and patterns were around, almost like sacred geometry. He believed that no human had the ability to explain what he saw.
Wow.
Yeah. So as he approached this very long white table, there was a being who looked delicate, but etching with years upon his face, sitting at the table, and asked Bird to take a seat. Master says to Bird, I bid you a welcome to our domain, Admiral. He smiles at Bird and motions him to sit down to have a conversation. So obviously Bird listens and takes a seat with him. He says, we have led you into our domain because you are a noble man on the surface world. And so Bird gasps at that because he now knows that he's underneath his own planet. Master replies, yes, you are, in Ariana, the inner world. We shall not delay your mission much longer. We will repair your craft and have you safely escorted back to the surface. But I must convey a message to your people, which is why I summoned you here. Our interest began shortly after your race had exploded the atomic bomb over Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It was so alarming to us, we had to send our flying machines to the surface world to investigate your world and what your race had done. You see, Admiral, we do not interfere with your race's wars and barbaric actions, but we must because you have learned to tamper with certain powers that man should not be tampering with. Example,
Time travel.
atomic energy. So nuclear energy.
Oh,
Yeah.
the bad stuff.
Yeah, apparently to them.
To all.
Doesn't it interfere with other dimensions
Yes.
as well? That's what I've heard.
Yes, yes.
Oh.
So it
Nuclear weapon?
Yes.
nuclear weapons.
It doesn't
they-
just affect our
I did
our
not
3D.
know that.
Yep.
Whoa.
Yep. So he goes on with saying, I have sent messages to your world's leaders, and they do not heed our warning. Now you have been chosen to bear witness to our culture and science. You can see that we are thousands of years beyond your race. Bird stops and replies, well, how does this have anything to do with me? Of course, right? And Master replies, your race has now reached the point of no return. For there are those among you who would rather destroy your planet than relinquish their powers over your race. He continues and says, the Dark Ages will come now for your race, and it will cover the entirety of your planet. I believe some of your race will live through this storm, and you will see at the end, at the very, very end, the great distance, a new world stirring. Wow.
Lovely.
Right? Kind of seems like we're in this right now. Like this.
Yeah, when did this happen again?
So this was in 1947.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is this guy still alive? Did they kill him off?
Admiral Byrd is dead, obviously.
Did he relinquish this information on his deathbed or prior to?
So I'm going to get to that.
Okay.
And we could just say his son had found his journal and ended up publishing it.
Oh,
Yeah, he released
Love
it.
that.
Yeah. From the ruins and ashes, seeking lost and legendary treasures, they will be here safe in our keeping. So remember, this is the master speaking, right? When the time arrives, we shall come forward again to help revive your culture and your race. Perhaps by then your race will learn the futility of war and its strife. After this time, your culture and science will be renewed. Admiral, you must go back to the surface and relay this message. He continues by telling Bird how dangerous the atomic bomb is, and not only for life on planet Earth, but for life in Agartha and other dimensions and planets' inhabitants as well. If humans do not stop with their inventions that are not for peace, but for destruction, that a great dark age will come upon us, the human race. So,
Oh yeah, I'm sure an atomic bomb or a nuclear bomb would probably cause like mad earthquakes in the hollow earth and the inner
absolutely. And think about even entities that are trying to travel interstellar, right? So they're trying to use plasma and almost teleport, right? And they're being interrupted with the nuclear blast because it's affecting
and portals too. If
Yeah.
it's in areas where there are interdimensional portals,
Yeah, exactly.
or the chakra energy grids of the earth, I'm sure it interferes with those things as well.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not helping.
Mm-hmm.
So, after hearing these words, Bird had bowed slightly out of respect or humility. He was not sure which one, and stood there as if he was in some sort of bizarre dream, but he knew he was in his own reality.
Probably both.
Yes.
So the master had bid him a farewell gesture, and then the two hosts were back to bring Bird to his aircraft. The host reminded Bird to relay the message he had just received back to the U.S. Navy. He got back into his aircraft, and the energy that had landed his plane had picked up his altitude of 2,700 feet, and then he was able to fly under the appropriate controls once he entered back into Earth's atmosphere. Two of their aircrafts had guided Bird into the right direction, even though there was no indication on any devices that there were crafts flying beside his own aircraft. So when Bird returned to the ice caps and entered the U.S. Navy's base, radios in reports all conditioned to be normal. Base Camp expresses their relief to hear back from him. Base Camp expresses their relief to hear back from Bird. Shortly after, on March 11th, 1947, Bird was attending a Pentagon meeting where he stated everything that was relayed to him by the otherworldly beings.
Ooh, I'm sure that didn't go over well.
Oh, you wait and see what happened to him. So the president was briefed on this, and Bird was detained for almost 7 hours, being extensively interviewed by top security, medical teams. He was placed under strict control orders where he was ordered to remain silent regarding everything.
And he did. He did.
They Kanye West his ass.
Not really, no.
Well,
he didn't necessarily.
He did remain silent. I remember seeing a couple interviews where he alluded to the potential of there being something because he was very honorable. Like, he was a man of his word. And I think that had something to do with why they took him into the center of the earth.
Well, the military reminded him that he's also a military official and
Yes.
must obey their orders.
He won the Medal of Honor. It's probably one of the highest, if not the highest.
Wow.
Yeah. So Bird's
He must have
final
been
notes.
so conflicted.
Yeah. So Bird's final notes in his diary wrote, December 20th, 1956. His last few years have not been kind to him. Closing off his diary, he writes that he had not told anyone of his discoveries, even though it goes against his moral codes. He continues to say that his secret will not die with him, and all shall know the truth, and it shall triumph. This is the only hope for mankind. He has completed his duty towards exposing the monstrous military-industrial complex. He writes, just as the Arctic ends, the brilliant sunshine of truth shall come again, and those who are of darkness shall fall in its light. For I have seen the land beyond the poles, the center of the great unknown. And that was the end of his diary.
Wow.
Yeah, and many people are skeptical of this story because it wasn't released until he had passed away. Like we said earlier, his son was the one who published it. And of course, NASA denied any claim of there ever being entrances to Hollow Earth. Many people cannot even afford to travel to these places, so they can't see for themselves, right? But if you look into photography of the planet, you can distinctively see there are anomalies where the formations of the poles are. So some people believe it to be just the ice caps, but there are skeptics who believe that they had whited it out on purpose by NASA, aka never a straight answer.
Ha! Love that.
So this story was covered up by Bird's return to the U.S. Navy. They told him never to speak of this to anyone, and immediately after, they had banned anyone else from being able to fly over the poles, guarded it with military, and now it's become a mystery for majority of people.
Didn't they find like on the Google Maps and just like those programs where you can look down on pieces of the earth? Didn't they find pyramids or what looked to be
Yes.
pyramids up there too? Which is super crazy. You know there's some shit going down when there's pyramids there.
Well, the funny thing too, right? And I know that Seven had mentioned this to me prior to today, that there are military agents who had Fitbits, and So there used to be a program where you could see everyone who had a Fitbit, and it was on their website, Fitbit's website. And people were checking out the North Poles, and they could see North and South Poles, sorry, and they could see that there were people with Fitbits underneath the ice. So that goes to show, yeah, they were walking around in the underground bases that they have there.
Yeah, so it's apparently
So military members.
a lot of military members give away the locations to their underground bases because some
Their
of them
Fitbits.
Yes,
That's
because of
so
their
funny.
Fitbits.
There's definitely a military base there. I think that's something most people would agree with.
Underground.
So the Admiral's second last mission to Antarctica, it was called, I believe it was Operation High Jump. They originally said that mission was in order to set up a research base. But tell me what research base needs over 4,700 men
Yes.
to go establish.
Big
Exactly.
base. That's a big base.
So, like,
Yeah.
there was obviously some things that they were covering up, and some people even say that they found out that there could have been hiding Nazis that escaped Antarctica.
Oh my gosh.
Well, yeah, Hitler
maybe
was
Hitler's
there.
up there.
Well, if he is, he's
Down there?
probably
Is it
dead
up?
now.
It's above us or below us?
Well,
It's
this
above
is
us, right?
this is
Below.
Antarctica
Below,
that we're
okay.
talking about, where
Inside.
Admiral Byrd went, but he also went to the North Poles. Like he went to both. So he went to Antarctica and the Arctic.
Okay, so Antarctica's at the bottom.
Yeah, Antarctica is at the bottom and the Arctic's at
is
the top.
Okay,
Yeah.
got you.
So, I believe for him to find Hollow Earth, he flew over the North Pole.
yeah. And you know what else is really sketchy? When I was looking at my globe, I was on mushrooms recently, and I was just like having a good time with my globe, noticing things I'd never noticed before. And what I found interesting about Antarctica is there's a bunch of interestingly familiar names of things, like the Rothschilds owns a chunk of land down there. And
Well, also too, I believe there are some people who think that Antarctica was Atlantis.
Yes,
So
Graham Hancock.
Graham
talks about
Hancock, well, David Wilcock
I
talks
can
about
see
that.
that. Yeah.
Things too that I would just want to point out is that if these are the entrances to Hollow Earth or even to leave our planet, this makes so much sense because I don't know if you guys believe in the firmament, the dome that goes over our Earth.
Mm-hmm.
So we essentially cannot leave if we were to use a rocket ship and fly into our atmosphere.
Yes.
We would
the
hit
end
the
of
dome.
the Earth, right? Like the Truman style.
Yeah, exactly.
Truman Wall.
I've heard the Van Allen radiation belt. It's part of something that's keeping us in, and if
Yes.
we could go into orbit or whatever you want to believe,
Yeah.
but you can't go past that because you'll just be destroyed by the radiation.
Oh.
And there's a whole argument about did we really go to the moon because
Absolutely not. I don't think we
the
did.
walls of the ships would have been way too thin, and radiation would have just annihilated anybody who tried to go through it.
I don't
the
think
moon is such a mystery. You're going to be talking to us about the moon next week, aren't you?
Maybe.
Maybe.
the
Maybe.
thing about all of this too, right? Like if we are trapped on planet Earth, I truly believe that that the Apollo 11s and whatnot, Apollo 10 or whatever, I don't think those astronauts went to the moon. I think that they were paid to say that they went to the moon. I'm not gonna lie.
There's video evidence of one of the astronauts talking, and they were actually, it was Apollo 11. They had this cutout that was covering one of the windows, and they were saying, "Oh, well, we'll just do it like they did in Apollo 10," and it's all on film. They claimed that they were halfway to the moon, but they never left orbit. And we'll probably put it up on Instagram or something.
I think that these beings, they're waiting for us to become peaceful, because why would they want to make contact with any of us if we are in a barbaric state? Like, how could they come to us peacefully without us wanting to destroy them? And I truly believe that all of this nonsense about how we need to have weaponry to go out into space, I think it's all BS.
Yeah, and like, I don't think we're ready to be a global civilization yet, just because of our state of mind. I guess we're a little bit too much focused on war and defending from alien outside influences.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the right mentality to be going galactic with. If we can't even get along with each other, how are we going to accept civilization? Like, imagine if we encountered a reptile race. If we have like these prejudices of other people that look different and talk differently,
How are we going to handle aliens?
exactly? Isn't that like interstellar racism?
If you can't even get along with a black person
Yeah.
as a white person or a white person as a black person, how are you going to get along with a reptilian or a Pleiadian or a gray?
Yeah.
are something that you've only known to be in a movie and potentially threatening movie scenarios. So we have a long way to go. That's why they reveal themselves to the right people, like Admiral Byrd.
Yeah, like for example, too, if we look at Dr. Stephen Greer, CE5 contact, he says that you have to be a very empathic being and open your heart to these beings to let them know where you are and that you are willing to make contact with them. I don't think that that necessarily everyone is ready, because majority of humanity is in such a low state of consciousness right now, especially right now. There's so many people in fear. That's like one of the lowest vibrations on the conscious scale, right? I don't think that we're far away from being able to be a level 1 civilization, which means that we use our planet's resources in a healthy way where we're not destroying our planet like how we are now. We're a 0 level civilization because we destroy our planet and we kill each other and there's endless amounts of war. But this leads us into another topic. Like, who do you think is manipulating humanity to be this way? Because if you think of a baby who is just born and like, let's just say like one of us, let's just say one of us were to have kids, and we wouldn't grow the child up to be racist, to be manipulative, to be a sociopath and whatnot. That I believe that's potentially society.
Yeah, it's taught.
Yeah.
I don't think it's in our nature. It's how we are nurtured, for sure.
Exactly. And so our environment affects us very, very heavily, especially between the ages of 0 and 7 years old. So like everything that we're taking in between 0 and 7 can affect our future and affect our personalities. And take a look at the commercials they show the kids, or take a look at what they're like literally teaching children at young ages. They want to teach them how to masturbate at 3 years old. Like, I don't think a child needs to know that. And also I think it's just perpetuating a society that's over sexualized.
Yes.
And you know,
giving them access to the internet way too young too. There's no restrictions. Once you have access to the internet and you know what you're doing, you could go anywhere with, and
exactly. And then they
too much power for one child.
Yeah. And they stumble across porn, and porn's free, and porn is degrading towards men and women. And it gives men this idea of how women should act and be in bed, when it's just so like not the way that women should be treated or should be nurtured, I'm going to use. But I just want to say that, I think that we are being controlled in the sense of media is controlling our perspective, and it's controlling us in a very low vibrational consciousness level, which is hindering us from being able to contact these high dimensional beings, these extraterrestrials who have been trying to make contact with us. As you could see, Admiral Byrd was summoned, and so they've been trying to make contact with us for a very long time. And they even warned us that we'd be going into the dark ages. And man, if you think about what had happened after 1947, we went into the 50s, and in the 50s, they were talking about spaceships and they were talking about anti-gravity. And then by 1955, they cut that short. And then the media stopped talking about all of that kind of stuff, as if someone big, quote unquote, elites, paid out the media to not talk about flying saucers and not talk about any of this stuff. Because you have to see, we went into a very dark age. And then after the 50s, went to the 60s, JFK's assassination and whatnot, and a lot of manipulation from the media, celebrities. You could see that we trailed into a very dark place. And
yes, I think aliens have infiltrated all levels of the government. And like that episode of The Simpsons where the two aliens come, and one's Al Gore and the other one's Clinton, I believe. And they're both running against each other, but they both end up being aliens in the end. So they have the same motives. They're just presenting as different people with different ideals.
They have technology that can basically shapeshift themselves into what we are. They're manipulating the third density so that they can act like us, look like us. But essentially, they don't have empathy like we do. And I do believe that our governments have been infiltrated by certain extraterrestrials. And do I think that they're evil? I think that evil is a lack of love, and the lack of the fact that their neurocortex doesn't work like our neurocortex, because with chromosome number 2 fused, we were able to show empathy and appreciate art and have all of that kind of stuff be presented towards us. And if you don't have that, if you don't have empathy, then you know, like you're clearly, well, first
You're
off,
a robot.
Yeah, well, and you're a sociopath,
Or a zombie.
narcissist, like,
yes, or that.
right?
Yeah.
And you can see in society,
Which are even worse because they have a mind of their own.
right? And in society today, it's a lot of that narcissistic personality traits that we find amongst a lot of people.
Co-creators
A lot of people are in competition, but yet,
instead of co-creating.
yes, exactly. And that's not the society that we're trying to build here. We need to be cooperating with each other. It's not competition in nature. When you look at nature, nature's cooperating with each other. They're not fighting each other unless it's obviously, like a predator trying to eat. That's different.
Yeah.
But even at the basic level, you can see that there's a lot of cooperation going on, and
Yeah.
and humans aren't doing that. We're not cooperating with each other. We have all of these borders and these stigmas of other people. But what I'm trying to say is that there is so much hatred towards each other, and we need to come together if we ever plan on leaving this planet, or if we ever plan on raising our consciousness, which I think is why this is happening today with, you know what? We all know what I'm talking about, you know, like the quarantines and whatnot. And I think it's happening for a reason, so that we can move towards a society where we could sustain ourselves, free energy, anti-gravity. It was supposed to happen in the 40s, but then something cut it short. And I'm going to say it was a group of people who had their pockets in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like look at reality television is such a big tool for programming humanity, and all of it is competitive. It's competition after competition.
Exactly.
I grew up watching Survivor, and every season it was man versus female, or like this side versus that side, purple versus orange. It's just like there was always a different way to segregate everyone and pin them against each other in competition. And they want you to have a dog eat dog mentality, where it's like it's either me or you.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that way we never come together as a crew and say, hey, we outnumber these assholes that are pinning us against each other, who are rigging the system so that only the dog eat dog mentality people can win. Only the people willing to crush one another to get to the top can get to the top. But if all of the rest of us came together in unity,
Exactly.
we'd be able to oust that mentality and those people entirely and create a society where everyone can benefit and everyone can win. And as long as everyone's willing to work, everyone will succeed, you know?
Exactly. Like I can see that in the 5D Earth, where we are all helping each other. Like there's not going to be any 40-hour work weeks anymore. I don't see it happening like that. I see like you can contribute as many hours as you can and that you need to help your community. Yes. And that we all have certain attributes that we can use towards helping our community. So like I said, I don't see it too far away in our future. I say I give it like 10 years before we can actually start thinking about being a universal consciousness, or a universal planet that joins the galaxy, I should say, right? Because I don't think that all extraterrestrials are evil at all. Like obviously I think there are some that do have a negative connotation towards humanity, and that's a different topic altogether.
So just to circle back to the Antarctica discussion, I also wanted to add that, like, I don't think General Byrd had anything up his sleeve by sharing that. Like, he doesn't really gain anything. If anything, he can be heavily discredited and kicked out of the army.
Yeah.
And he only jeopardizes his own success and longevity
Absolutely.
by presenting that information. And I also think it's very interesting how similar that message was to the message I talked about last week from the Ashtar Galactic Command. They're basically saying the same thing.
Exactly.
So they give us many warnings over the years from different time periods, generally saying the same thing, which is really interesting. And Seven, you brought up that map too, that of Antarctica.
Yeah.
So the Rothschilds one, piece of land, I think that must have actually been in the Arctic on the other end, because I'm not seeing it here. But you know what's super interesting about Antarctica? If you read the names of the places, it's as if every country has a stake up there.
I think they do.
Like, look at the Hong Kagwan Hav. That seems Asian, of an Asian descent name. We got Queen Mary Land, British. Princess Elizabeth Land, British. Kempland, Enderbury, like that sounds like New Zealand,
Yep.
you know. Mary Bird Land, Ross Ice Shelf, the George V Land, Terry Adedley. I can't even say that one. Belsing Hassoun, that Amadusan, the Amadusan Sea. That I'm getting whiffs of like so many different cultures in these names: German, British.
Well, they're all working together. Every world leader
they all
is
have a chunk of
hiding this
land.
from us.
Yeah,
And you know why
maybe
are
they gave
hiding?
them a piece of land, like you could just hush up and you can have this section. We'll give you.
Well, the thing is that they don't want us to be able to become a universal galactic planet. The reason is because all of their pocketbooks would be hurt because we wouldn't need petroleum. We would be using cold plasma to teleport and to move from one place to another. So we wouldn't need GMC and Honda. No need for these places and no need for these corporations.
Yeah.
Right? So this is the reason why they want us dumbed down. That's why they put fluoride in our water. The thing that I laugh about the most is that people think that the government and the CIA are not doing these horrible things that they were doing back in the day to people, but yet they've never stopped.
Yeah, they never stop.
They never stopped.
Oh no, there's that lady that goes to the thingamabob protests and she's in her 90s and she always gives this speech talking about how she was a Jewish woman living through the Holocaust, and she warns everybody that what we're seeing today
Is the same
thing she was seeing and experiencing back then, and in some cases even worse. And she's terribly frightened that history is repeating itself and that everyone is just standing by and letting it happen, watching it happen.
Well, you have to think they did that in Germany.
Yeah.
Everyone complied. The police officers complied to take away the Jewish people. Everyone was complicit. They said that they were doing this because they needed an income or that they needed to feed their family. And they all knew what they were doing was wrong.
Yeah,
Yep.
for sure. And she says, if there's one last thing I do with my life and time on this earth, it's telling you guys this information, delivering this message. Please take warning. And we need to listen to our elders.
Yep.
They've seen some shit and they know what they're talking about. She has nothing to gain. Again, she has nothing to gain by coming forward and saying these things. She's just genuinely trying to help humanity.
I think a lot of time too when people speak out about issues that could potentially make them look bad, like Admiral Byrd, like this lady.
Yep.
They have everything to lose, and it's like people like that are doing it because they love humanity. We shouldn't be repeating history's mistakes. We can't keep doing this. So I understand Admiral Byrd was kind of keeping it hush because, he was a man of honor, and I guess they would have probably killed him if he said anything. And I think,
well, you can see in his last journal entry that the last years that he lived were not kind to him. So they definitely did some stuff to him that was...
He's a national treasure.
Did you know that he wasn't the only one who had an expedition to the North Pole? I believe his name was, he was Norwegian, and his name was Dr. Fridtjof Nansen. And he actually speaks about sudden weather change as he approached a certain part.
Yep.
And got really warm, and he said that there was flowing water.
Wow.
Yeah.
There was flowing water, and he actually didn't get into the Earth. He didn't get to that point,
like
but he said
Triangle almost.
He saw floating bones, mammoths. Like I could go into his story is
Next
another
level.
one in itself. But he said he found large quantities of mud and driftwood, deer, horses. Like he was describing this, and he's a national hero in Norway.
Yeah.
Very highly regarded.
There's also a lot of politicians and celebrities that have been seen in Antarctica. Kanye West, Kim Kardashian, George Bush, Obama. They've all been seen, and then some. Like, that's just the tip of the iceberg.
You want my thoughts on that? I think that these people of power, the powers that were, not anymore, I think that they do travel intergalactically, and they hide it from us because they think that they're the only ones that have... They're
the only deserving ones
exactly
to do it.
They're the only ones that deserve to do it because they're of high standards in society.
It's the reptilians crawling back into their lair.
Yeah, for real. And they do travel. I think that because you know what, why are we still using steam engine technology for our cars? We are way beyond that. And we've been beyond that since Nikola Tesla, 1899. We had free energy then. He was driving around in his own car, took no gas, and he went to Thomas Edison, hey, I have free energy. Like, I want to give this to the American people. And Thomas Edison said, well, if we can't put a price tag on it, then we're not giving it to the people.
Yeah, you can't sell it.
Exactly.
And you know what's ironic about that? If you look up Tesla on Google, just the word Tesla, all you get are photographs of Tesla cars. And I'm just like, what about Tesla, the dude, the man behind the magic? It's like they try to cover it up.
Exactly. They're trying to cover up history.
Like they do Walt Disney with the whole Frozen thing. And if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, apparently Walt Disney was cryogenically frozen. And when people started finding out about it, they tried to cover it up by creating Frozen, which was the greatest grossing Disney movie of all time. So now if you look up Walt Disney or Frozen or any combination of those words, all you will see is Frozen the movie content and not a word of...
He would be the worst popsicle ever made.
Supposedly, according to that theory, they're bringing him back soon. He was supposed to be on Thawed in the next year or two.
Well, here comes the second Antichrist.
If the story, if the story is true, we can do a special on Walt Disney for sure.
Did you know that there's also a book that was written in 1908, and it talks about basically the Hollow Earth and these giants. It's called The Smoky God by Willis George Emerson, and supposedly the whole idea behind the book was given to him by a gentleman named Olaf Jensen, where him and his father, they went on this expedition, and they eventually found themselves being pulled into, I believe they described it as a polar opening, and they met, again, giants. They said that they were about 12 feet tall. They called themselves the Elder Race. And it says that they also lived a long time, like 800 years. And
in the Bible, they talk about that.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, in the Bible.
The Nephilim.
Noah and all these people, they lived.
We're telling the same story a bunch of times over with different names.
Exactly.
People don't even realize it.
Yep. Exactly.
Talks about vast vegetation.
Wow, I want to read that book.
Yeah, you should.
A lot of stories there are about Hollow Earth. It's a thing. I'm a believer.
Me too.
They called it Smoky God because apparently the sun inside the earth was smoky. It had a smoky look to it.
So there's a sun inside the earth as well.
Yes, I actually have read about the sun inside the earth.
Regular, lame old scientists will call the Earth's core. The way they describe the Earth's core is much like a sun. I hear it, that could be exactly what they're referring to. That's just
maybe
the
that's
sky
where the lava comes
for
from.
the inner, for the inner Earth.
Yeah. Yep.
Sorry to interrupt. I was going to jump in and say that the largest borehole that was ever done on Earth.
What's a borehole?
A borehole is something that's really boring.
Not a whorehole.
Oh gosh.
It's that's another show.
Yeah.
That's
No, sorry, continue.
So
borehole.
a borehole, it's just, when you drill for oil, you just go straight down, right? And you attach drills and you keep going. The Russians tried to do this. It is called the Kola Super Deep Borehole, and we only managed to get about 12,262 meters. That's about 7.6 miles. And it got too hot for their drills, and we haven't been deeper. You know how you were saying that the center of the Earth is supposedly a lava core?
Or a sun.
We measured it out, and I think 4,000 miles, and we only managed to get about 7.6.
Wow.
So there's a lot of Earth to explore.
Yeah.
A lot.
That's exciting. And the ocean, too. That's a whole other...
Oh, yeah.
Whew. Yeah. Crazy stuff, this Earth, eh?
Yep. And we have no idea. We are literally being lied to and forced into a matrix where we have to live 9 to 5 and stress out for our whole lives because they don't want you to know that this all exists. They are trying to hold this away from you so that you have no idea the mystical, beautiful,
magical
world we actually live in.
Yep. Let's end it on that note because we're running out of time.
Cool.
But thank you guys for joining us again on this wonderful Wednesday.
Thank you guys so much. And you can contact us through stellargnosis@protonmail.com. And if you have any questions or if you want us to do a show on anything, hit us up by the email and we'll get back to you. Thank you to all of our fans. We love you.
Stay cool.
See you guys soon.